to Cape Palmas, mountain back to Atlantic Ocean, Obomi Hills to Bokonjre, to educate, elevate, and promote. Yeah, focus on Liberia, for Liberia, Liberia, for Liberia, yeah. From Monday to Sunday, from Monday to Sunday, it's focus on Liberia. Talk about home affairs, in diaspora, current affairs, reliable information, history, talking about culture, politics, education, entertainment, business, sports, advertisement, articulation. Focus on Liberia. Focus on Liberia. Focus on Liberia. From Monday to Sunday.
At Focus on Liberia, we discuss everything Liberia, from education to politics, arts and culture, entertainment, agriculture, history, religion, family, and technology. Focus on Liberia uncovers and showcases the best of Liberia and shows the world the truth about Liberia. We educate, elevate, and promote all things Liberia. We conduct interviews, panel discussions, debates, and more. Tune in to Focus on Liberia on Facebook and YouTube and be a part of the stories that make up the news.
This is Focus on Liberia.
All right. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Thanks for joining us. You are watching Focus on Liberia Saturday edition. Usually we are on Kear Radio 95.9 as well. Today we're having some technical difficulties. If we do get linked up with them, we will inform you. But for now, we are going to go ahead. Today I have three gentlemen, three panelists with me, and we're going to be discussing a range of topics that have happened in Liberia over the past week. So I'm going to go ahead here. Time is spent, so we'll go ahead and introduce our panelists for today. Anthony, good morning.
Good morning, Micah. It's good to be here. I'm excited to be here with J. Victor Namwe and our resident economist, Tom. And I want to say hi to the listening audience. Please share the broadcast and let's have a conversation about our country.
Thank you so much. Anthony. J. Victor Nangme, how are you this morning, sir?
Hey, Michael, how are you? Good morning from the East Coast. Good to be here with you and Anthony as well. Thomas, thank you for joining us. Let me also thank our audience for joining us. Please invite a friend and interact with us as well. Sending your comments. Who knows? We might also take a few calls along the way, but it is good to be here.
All right. Okay. And Thomas, how are you this morning? You're muted. There you go.
I'm fine. It's great on the show with Victor and Anthony. And I just want to say hi to all of our listeners, those who are the show. So it's a pleasure to be here to always talk about what is happening back home in Liberia.
Awesome. Okay. So, all right. So, ladies and gentlemen, please share the show. Let's see if we can get other people listening in and tuning in and watching in. We're gonna have some really great topics today. This week, we watched the much talked about July 17th protest happen. I will have my panelists here weigh in on how peaceful it was, and what was the value of all of that, as well as just what's the value of of protests in our society today, if there is any at all. We'll also talk about the port bill that was developed through the Senate and was also approved by the House of Representatives, and it was rejected by the president and sent back. We'll discuss that. We'll discuss. I believe this is the first bill that the president has vetoed in his administration. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about the process um, and what happens next when it comes to such a bill. And we'll also talk about the superintendents and county council administrators were summoned to the Hill this week to discuss local government, to discuss the spending of the Liberian people's money. So we'll discuss that as well. And so, and then finally, we'll discuss a developing topic that I was called about earlier today. There is a group that is planning a march on August 7th, um, just to highlight and bring to the attention of our lawmakers the drug epidemic in Liberia. So finally, we'll close on that one. But let's kick things off. Let's kick things off here. Um, so July 7 came and July 7 went.
Mike, I'm
Yes, sir.
sorry.
Go right ahead.
I just wanted us to recognize our colleague here, Ahmed, the other way in Monrovia. He's one of our resident government experts here, and he's not here with us today. But I just wanted to appreciate the fact that, in addition to others who are turning in, but I wanted to say, "What's up, Ahmed? Hope all is going well, buddy." Thank you, Mike.
All right. I mean, you got an official shout out from Focus on Liberia. And I hope you're having a good wet. I believe it's a wet morning in Pinsville this morning. So I hope you're having a good wet morning. That Monrovia rain. Okay, so gentlemen, let's kick off here. First, let's talk about July 17th. There was a lot to the build up to that. We saw a lot of back and forth, a lot of saber rattling, if I might say, between stands, people from the opposition and people from the government. The police director, we noticed, was on several news outlets, media outlets, even a day before the protest. The protest came, and the protest has gone. But I wanted just to, before we bury that hatchet, let's just give our observations really quick on that, and then please tag in on the value of protest. Now looking back at it. So, Nangwe, let me give you a first go at it.
Well, thank you very much, Mike. And again, look, I'll come at it this way to register the significance of coming out to protest a sitting government and do so while you're dancing in the streets and drinking your cold water and being able to go home without a drop of blood coming out of your body. It took us a long time to get here. Lives were laid on the line for this. You're talking about Wogabi Tapia. You're talking about Gabriel Bacchus Matthews. You're talking about Marcus S.G. Dunn, Alfonso Kawa, Wesley Momo Johnson, Emma Claudius Sawyer, Samuel W. Saba. These are people who have been, and some of the people are here today with us. Deacon Kala is here with us. Even Kofi was in the government, Alari Toba. But these are things that we fought tooth and nail, especially in the 80s, to be able to come out and tell your government that we disagree with some of your decisions and be able to go home without anybody coming to knock on your door. So this is really significant. I'm not interested in success or failure of how many people came out and all of that. Just the ability to come out, the opportunity to come out and register your dissent to the operations of your government. This is very significant. I mean, I congratulate the organizers. I'm hearing all of the various reviews. Molu was helped out by CDC and all whatever, whatever. I also read, I like to congratulate the government. We've come here and said how we think the government is doing well and how it is not doing well. And I think there are those times when they do well, we should say so. I think the conduct of this government relative to the protest is commendable. I have lots of doubts about Gregor Coleman's strategies for handling, mass protest. I was very apprehensive in the lead up to this protest, given the posture that the police was adopting, getting out in the street and drinking king juice on the sidewalk and dancing all over the place. I was worried that they would get out of control and do something stupid, and they did not. So I'm really full of commendations on all sides. I am now hoping that this government will take notice, because it's not just people coming out and protesting. I wish the government had sent out someone to officially receive, the concerns that the
Yeah.
protesters have for the government. That didn't happen. But notwithstanding, I think it was a good day for Liberia. I'm just not happy that they did it on my birthday. So I got to talk to Molo. You got to be very, very careful in picking a date.
Yeah.
But all in all, Michael, I think this is a good day for Liberia. Let me cap it up. Look, we've had, I would say, 3 or 4 elections, non-violent elections, democratically turning over the reins of power to another government when election has been decided. We had Ellen Johnson twice. We had George Weah conceding a sitting president, conceding even while the votes are being counted, without dragging us through the mud of a protest, people coming in the streets and all of that. And now this, to allow your people to come out in the streets and tell you, look, we like some of what you do, but primarily, we don't like most of what you're doing. I think it's a good day for Liberia.
Okay. All
What is
right.
your thoughts on it?
Thank you so much, Langway. Thank you so much. So I this is something I haven't seen. I don't know if other people have seen it, but this is something I haven't seen. I saw a lot of people come out, and congratulate the police on their restraint, on their professionalism. I did not see anybody come out and congratulate the protesters for following, following peacefully and conducting himself for the most part, peacefully. But I'm glad to hear somebody say, look, on all sides, this was a good thing, Um, but the protest came, the protest went. A lot of discussion, Anthony, on this was, what has protest ever done to help Liberia? What has protest ever done to bring change in Liberia? What do we expect from this protest? Is there going to be any change, or basically was this just another moment and we are moved on?
Michael, thank you. I like the question. And I think this question will be the second thing I talk about when I give my second chance to speak on this protest. It is important for us to understand, the importance of protest and what uh, humanity has been able to achieve, through protest or as a result of protest. Because if we understand the essence of protest, that it is a vital tool in terms of change, advocacy, and then people will not be afraid whenever a protest is announced. Maybe we are yet to understand the importance of protest, in societal change. That is why when a protest is announced, especially in Liberia, you see government, in particular, and government actors. They are like, hell no, they can't happen. Either they are terrified that they will bring their government down, they will scare investors away, and all manner of things, that go through their mind. And so, for the most part, they don't want to see a protest. Now, let us understand, when they say they don't want to see a protest, what you're trying to do is you are trying to infringe on another citizen's right, that they don't have the right to dissent, all right, that they shouldn't challenge you, that they shouldn't hold you accountable, that they shouldn't point out things that are going on wrong in the government. All right. And that is why basically you are saying that you're doing everything right, that no one is hurting in this country. So they should not say anything, any attempt, any opposition, or resisting to a protest. That is what you are communicating, and that is unfair to the other group of citizens who want to really want come out, and voice out their dissatisfaction. So the power and purpose of protest is key when it comes to change in every society. Because protest has always been like a catalyst, for societal change, a bold declaration that, injustice will not go unchallenged, unnoticed. Its importance run deep across, historical, political, and personal dimensions. J. Victor Namwe has been, part of protests. We in Liberia, people say, "Oh, the rest riot," but here in America, where everybody wants to come, right? Think about it, Michael. You are aware that every blessed day in America, and anybody can quote me on this. Every blessed day in America, there's protests going on at the White House. This is a fact. Every day, protest is going on here in America at the White House. But this is the place that every political leader in the world wants to come and lobby for something. But in their country, when they hear about protest, it means that their government will look unpopular and so on and so forth. And protests have been allowed. The most violent protests that you can think about, some of them are happening here in America. The history is there for us to see. So our leaders need to understand that they need to give people the opportunity to speak. The civil rights movement brought about, the rights of blacks in this country, and now things are getting better. I want to say, apartheid, the struggle for change, I was through protest, and today things are a little better in South Africa. Even when we talk about women's right, from suffrage marches to global demonstration for equality, protest has amplified women's voices across centuries. And today, women are presidents, women are senators and representatives and holding key positions. All that is possible today because of protest. So our leaders need to understand. Another thing I want to say before I leave is that, protest gave voice to those who are marginalized, those who are hurting. And that is the only way powerful people will be able to know that people are actually hurting, because it gives them the opportunity to vent out their frustration in a more organized way. So when policy leaders who are in their comfort, all right, you see these people either in the rain or in the sun for days, now it signals to them that, oh, this is serious. Maybe I should listen here. Maybe I should address the concerns of these people. And so we have to understand the essence of protest. No protest is going to bring war to Liberia. No protest is going to destroy Liberia. A protest will destroy any country. It will be America, because it's one of the countries that I know in the world where protests happen almost every day. Thank
All
you.
right. All right. Thank you so much, Anthony. Thank you so much. Tom, so, I through this process, we heard a lot of things regurgitated. We heard about June 7 protests in 2019, and and what happened there, and the aftermath of that. Some people even some people even consider that the beginning of the end of the CDC leadership, and I eventually defeated them 2 years ago, almost 2 years ago. Um, and now we see this. What is your take on the value of protest in Liberia and this last protest? What is your take on what may happen next, or what is there going to be anything that will happen next when it comes to this?
Thank you very much, Michael. So you said that there's a group of people that are planning a protest for August 7.
Yes.
So I'm just wondering, why is it that all the recent protests have to have a 7 in there? June 7, July 17, August 7. I don't know what is the thing around the number 7 that everyone is trying to take. But to your question, I mean, what's the value of it? I think Victor and Anthony try to.
Seven is the lucky number, Thomas. Seven,
Okay.
17.
Yeah, so I think they try to answer the question. On the democratic side, our constitution provides that people have the right to associate, right?
Uh-huh.
So if two or three persons want to get together to petition their government, it is a right. The government is under obligation to be able to grant them that space for them to be able to voice out whatever concerns that they have. And I think what one thing I saw about this protest was that coordination between those who wanted to protest and the government. previously we will see that if people want to protest, the government will create all kind of tactics to stop them from getting that approval to say you can gather and be able to voice out what you want to convey to the government. So in some instances, the people organizing the protest will write a letter to the Ministry of Justice, and then when they get there, they will create all kinds of bottlenecks so that that letter doesn't get delivered. And then the excuse will be you didn't get the permit to go out there to protest. But in this case, they formally went to the Ministry of Justice. The Ministry of Justice communicated with them and said you can go out. But in that letter, if you look at it carefully, they wrote a caveat in there that go out and protest peacefully. But if anything goes contrary, if anything turns out violent, if anything is destroyed, you organizing the protest, you'll be responsible. So I think that kind of collaboration in terms of actually following the process pre the protest actually helped to guide whoever was involved in the organization of the protest. And also, I think the government was very responsible enough to be able to grant them that permit to go out. So, on the side of what the Constitution provides, on the side of democracy, that was something very good.
Now let me ask you a
Also,
question. Oh, go ahead. Go
yeah,
ahead. Finish
no,
up.
no, 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 no.
Okay,
Ask the question.
that's the question. I want to segue a little bit just to the unintended results of protests, right? Um, June 7th, right, which is regarded by many as the largest protest in recent Liberian history. Um, all of that protest, we saw a bunch of opposition parties and opposition organizations working collaboratively to carry out that protest. Based on the numbers they saw in that protest and the success of that protest, we saw the same group of people, opposition leaders, opposition organizations come together and support Darius Dillon, who defeated CDC for the very first time since 2005 in Monserrato senatorial. Because before that, CDC held both senatorial seats, right? Throughout. Okay, we saw the first defeat in Monserrato of CDC. And that from there created a snowball where people started to actually believe that they could defeat CDC in a national election. That was and when June 7 was being planned, none of that was on the table. It was mainly let's go out, let's air our voices. What we've seen recently, as early as this morning, is that with this last protest, there's several things that happened. The first thing is that there was a young gentleman that appeared on the media. He was talking about him being a drug dealer and that boycott government was supporting his drug business. Simultaneously, we saw a lady by the name of Quita that was arrested at the Rabat International Airport off a Kenya Airways flight with drugs. Simultaneously, we saw another lady named Aman Giddings who came out and did a podcast and talked about her son, who was on drugs, had been on drugs since the 10th grade, was now in South Beach. And even though she could do what she needed to do to free him, but she was allowing him to stay in South Beach because she felt that was the safest place for him. And this lady, a mother, cried on live TV for her son and the drug epidemic in Liberia. Fast forward to this morning, there is a group right now, it's a developing story of a group that is planning an August 7 march to bring to the attention of the lawmakers the drug epidemic in Liberia and what needs to be done. So if we could segue to that, so these are the unintended results of protests. Um, um, the drug epidemic in Liberia, the actions so far of the government, the legislature. Do you think this might be the justified march or event that should happen?
Right. So that's one thing about the issue of these protests, right? Sometimes there are intended consequences and there are some unintended consequences. There are also outcomes that you achieve from the protest directly from what you demanded. In some instances, there are some other things that spring out and then become a policy issue when you yourself did not intend to really achieve that outcome. Like you were saying, simultaneously, I don't know if it is linked, but Senator Dillon and Senator Amara Kone have just written the Senate to invite the members of the committee that the president had put together. You remember when the president took office, he set up this committee on drugs.
Hmm.
I think the Ministry of Health, the Ministry of Justice, all of them were put together as a committee to be able to develop strategies and plans to respond to the issue of drugs in the country. So, what the two senators are saying is that this committee has been in place for many years, but the Liberian people don't know exactly what they are doing. So now let's invite them to come to be able to tell us what they are doing. So, like you are saying, the issue of the drugs, I mean, is a major talking point from the protest. Some people are saying that that interview was staged. Maybe that guy was asked to go and grant that interview. Some other people are saying it's realistic. So if it's realistic, people are even asking that why don't the police, the immigration, the LDA call him and investigate further to be able to see how authentic this is. So I think it goes back to the point that you are making that the protest can be able to come up with some other outcomes that were not even part of the petition statement that was delivered by those who organized the protest. But to your question about how do we move from here,
Yes.
protest is something that is very difficult to predict. June 7 and this protest, they have some similarities in the sense that they were organized months in advance, and then there were time for engagement. I remember for June 7th, for instance, ECOWAS and the AU, all these regional bodies sent representatives to Monrovia to go and intervene. But there are some protests that are spontaneous. Something just spark up and then people get to the street. So in that case, it's difficult to even go to the Ministry of Justice to say you need a primary to go in and protest. People will just get out there and be able to protest. So it's difficult to say. One thing I would say is that on the continent, we have seen a lot of protests come out. In 2024, for instance, there were more than 7,000 protests that were organized across different African countries. That was documented in the CPIA report that the World Bank just put out. So people are getting very impatient. People are demonstrating about the poor quality of public services, the lack of transparency in government, and all of that. So maybe this is something that you could see happening a couple of times as we move forward. But it depends on how the government is going to respond. I think some of the points that were raised in the petitions that were shared, these are things that the government is working on. So once the government is able to respond to these things, the less likely it is that we are going to see protests. And this is where I agree with Mr. Nangwe, that it was a missed opportunity for the government not to receive the petition and say you are going to respond to it, then you will have no 14 days ultimatum. But for the fact that you did not receive it, you create that window so that they can exploit it and come back to say, okay, we protested the other day, our petition was not received. They had to read it, but it was not submitted to anyone. So I think that was an opportunity that was missed. These are your citizens, regardless of who organized the protest, what they did when they were in power. If they come back to the street, just listen to them. And then you close that window of another one. Then they have to find another reason to come back. But right now it's open.
Okay. All right. Okay. So I'm come to you, Anthony. I'm going to be very political with you. Okay.
Okay.
Um, One of the first things that President Boyka did when he became president, right? He woke up early that morning. He went to Ministry of Health, PP in a cup, right? And he declared that the drug epidemic in Liberia was going to be public enemy number one, not corruption. The drug epidemic. We're going to probably. We saw him go there. The newspaper people follow him. When he peeped in the cup, he left. Same that day he left. We not hear anything again from the executive mansion. They totally close on that. Okay. Um, the Liberian people obviously are under a huge burden when it comes to the drug epidemic. What can this government what can this government actually say to the Liberian people right now to give them hope that they are actively working on this?
So I don't know what the government can say when it comes to the fight against drug. You are right. A president showed up along with his vice president, and they were drug tested. People congratulated the president that that was a symbolic leadership demonstrating, seriousness about this crisis that is taking the future of our country away. I don't know if our leaders understand that drug crisis we have in our country, it is a humongous threat to the future of Liberia. The future of Liberia is not in the gold that we have. The future of Liberia is not the waters that we have. The young people of our country, there where our country's future is buried. And the drugs. And if we talk about the future further of these young people, the future of Liberia is in their minds. And what they are consuming right now is destroying that powerful resource that we have for the future of Liberia, their minds. So drugs in there. So garbage in, garbage out. So when the president recognized the threat that the drugs crisis posed to the country, when he was symbolic about it, that I'm testing myself, let everyone be tested, I thought there was going to be a consistent testing going on and treatment going on, all right, and rehabilitation to continue so that that threat can be eliminated. But it was just a show. It remains a show today. You mentioned the committee. I think Tom mentioned, yeah, Tom actually mentioned the committee that was put together. Ministry of Health and other ministries were part of that. Where is that? I guarantee you that committee has been dead from day one. If they show up on Capitol building, anything that will come from their mouth, it will just be lecture. They will just be covering up. And they will not have any document to prove what they have been able to do so far. My understanding is that they also have some money in the budget for this same drug crisis. And Tom, maybe you can comment on that if you remember the details, right? Has that money been generated? Who's managing that money? What has been done with that money? All right. So, my brother, I mean, you mentioned the war, you will be political. I agree, it's politics because when the political leader of the country say, look, this is what we're doing about this, we won't hold that person accountable. That is political. But it's more than politics. All right. It is about the future of our country. And I emphasize that the future of this country lies in the minds of the youth. And the drug is taking that mentality, that possibility away. So to see that this is another football game by this government, by our president, by our leaders, it is sad because the future of Liberia is not in this bill on the port and order. Who are the people who are going to work at the port that we're talking about? That are the young people. And so I rest to say that is why for me, I'm a protester. I went to the White House, I protested there. That's how I got to know people are there every day. I went to United Nations headquarters, I protested there. I went to the US Congress, and during my time of protest, we were ushered in the office of the Speaker. By then, Nancy Pelosi was the Speaker of the House. My good friend and brother, to whom I'm very close, Josiah Joker, read our petition in the office of the Speaker, Nancy Pelosi, at the time. But when their protests were coming about, and Josiah is a brilliant guy, he's a Democrat by every measure, but he wrote a post that I disagree with significantly. I purposely intended to speak publicly on this. And I want him to hear me that your friend Anthony is criticizing you on your statement.
Yeah.
He and I crafted that statement. He was designated to read it in Congress, in the office of the most powerful speaker in the world. And today, I have pictures of he and myself dressed in plastic, cover over our clothes when we're raining to protest for democracy, for us to be heard. And now he's criticizing others for doing the very thing.
Okay.
This is how others behave, and it's sad.
All right. There we go. Um, you know, I've learned that people sometimes they gain different perspective as they move on in life. So, well, it'll be very interesting to hear uh, 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 Jokai's version of the events of that day in his position today. So there's a public invitation to Jokai from FOL. You are invited anytime to come and give your side. So there
And
we
Marco,
go.
I know you're going away from me. Please maybe allow me a few
Yeah,
seconds. And
few
it's not
seconds.
only to Joker.
Hmm.
It is to all our friends and brothers, our
Hmm.
fellow citizens who are in government, who feel that any protest is just to embarrass their government. No, that is not so. I want them to invite the protester to a debate. Let
Hmm.
debate the issue, especially when you're talking about CDC and Momba Molu. I honestly believe that Momba Molu is not in any moral place to
Hmm.
organize a protest.
Hmm.
Two things can be true. I recognize his right to do so as a citizen, but that right has been given to him as a citizen. So what I wanted to see my friend Joka do is invite Mamba Molu to a debate. That Mr. Molu, it's your right to protest, but I'm inviting you to a debate to see how you are in any moral place right now to organize a debate on the very issues that you could not say anything about, but you could only whisper in the back end. And audio
Okay.
clips have to leak out before we could hear your actual feelings about the realities in the country at the time.
Okay. All right. So, Mr. Nangwe, let me come to you. And Tom can correct me if I'm wrong. Um, the the I believe this is 2025 budget of the Drug Enforcement Agency was the 2024 budget of the Drug Enforcement Agency was 2.3 million. And most people miss this, but under the government projects, there's another group called Push Must Go Project, Fight Against Illicit Drug. They got over $400,000 to spend. Um, I don't have with me right now the 2025 amounts. But this government is spending over, I mean, $2 million. So most people might say that's even a drop in the bucket. If this is your number one public enemy, and all you're spending is $2 million on a war on drugs, and 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 um and most I saw an interview where there were several guys from the DEA who were not even on government payroll. They were considered volunteers. So if you have volunteers manning the checkpoints, manning the exit and entry points, and these people are coming in with millions of dollars of drugs, where these people are susceptible to bribery. Is this government really serious about this, or are we about to see just another charade of concern here? And ironically, today, Darius Dillon is having a program as we speak at his rehab. I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, that is the only rehab I've heard about. Does government have a rehab center? Go ahead, Anangwe.
Yeah, I doubt so, Michael. They say the budget communicates the government's priorities. Uh, the issue you're raising, this issue was highlighted also. I listened to A.B. Kroman, and he was lamenting the lack of support to the LDEA. And the guys who are planning to come out and protest, protests really are intended to highlight an issue, and I understand my friend Anthony. He's a younger brother. He's just meeting his disappointment. Some of us have seen a lot of disappointments in our lifetime. Some of the guys when you will walk the street, they get in the government and they become different creature. Uh, 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 and I disagree with him in calling Molu and Jukai or even Alari to debate the issue because the problem are not intellectual. It's not about debates. It is about mustering the courage to address the problems. So if you want to come and intellectualize it, yeah, you can go and debate. That's fine. But would that address the real problems? I think that's where the problem is. What Dylan is doing, I haven't taken much closer look at it, but that's something maybe that could be highlighted. What most countries do, like here in the US, they build these halfway houses. Most of the people in the streets, some of them have mental issues. Yeah, some of them are drug addicts, but some of them have mental issues. They're not on the medication. And the halfway homes confines them. And then they're given that treatment. and it forces them to stay in the treatment regime, because some of the drugs, they have to accumulate to a certain level in your system to begin to take effect. But some of them, they take it today, they run away, they come back 2 weeks later, they take it, they run away, and that way the effect is not being generated. And so that's what the halfway house does. They will confine these people and help them out. Most of these people need help.
Yeah.
Like you rightly said, these guys are the future of our country. When people are saying it's not funny, but all of us here in the next 10, 20 years will be gone. These young people, they have to be here to run this country. And in order for them to do that, they have to be given the capacity. Right now, most of them, the way they're in the street, they're not gaining the sophistication, that's required to run a country. So if the guys want to come out in the streets to highlight the fact that, you know, um, our disaffected young people seem to be, neglected, I think it's a welcome development. I think they should do so and raise the profile. You're right. The president, that was one of the first things he did. He went and took a drug test. I think to communicate how serious he was about tackling, the
Then what
issue.
happened? Like, what
Eh,
happened? How can you
Exactly.
go from taking the drug test to just zero?
Exactly. So the follow through. So and I always say here, I think the president sometimes he means well, but he does something entirely different. I am having difficulty matching Joseph Boakai with the expressions and the physical action that follow afterwards. I think he meant like the same 90 days, no car getting stuck in the mud. I think he meant that. He meant that. But how to actualize that is a problem for him. So when he took the drug test, I think he realized the magnitude of the problem and he wanted to have it taken care of. But then he did not put in place a mechanism to address that, meaning even the funding, the constitution of an agency. So maybe we can take lesson from Dylan, see what he's doing, if it is working well. The government can start it, and who knows, they can privatize it. There may very well be some well-off Liberians or non-Liberians who could come in to help us. But these halfway homes, they are all over the place here. In Jersey, where I am, there are hundreds of them. You set them up, you put the kids, you put the people in there. Some of them there for 2 weeks, some of them there for 1 month, some of them 3 months. But for the time it requires to detox, you have to address the problem, get them off the drugs, give them the medication that's required to
Yeah.
discourage them, to reduce the craving and all of that. And then when they leave, what else? You got to also address that. How do you reinsert them into society? Are they going to go to school? Are they going to go learn skills? Some of them, they're already professional people. Will they be able to find jobs? So it's a serious problem. And the population is increasing in the street. Almost every time you go, you see a new group of people in the streets.
So let me end with this because we're kind of far spent, but I want to bring this together. So you talk about half houses, you talk about we talk about rehabs. Okay, everybody will agree this has to be a collaborative effort, right?
Mhm.
First you have to stop the drugs from coming in as much as
Yes,
possible.
and that's where the LDA will come in.
Then you have to when you do find drug dealers, you have to prosecute them really well,
Yeah,
right? And lock
yeah,
them up. That's the second part. The third part is you have to provide some sort of rehabilitation services for
yes,
people who are caught on drugs. Fourth is that you have to create the economic conditions so people who may be thinking about drugs, people who are coming off drugs, the idle mind is the devil's workshop. You have a lot of idle young people in the country. They wake up in the morning, they pass around all day, and in the evening, they go to bed. You have those idleness of young people. If you put them to work, you get them busy, then the chances of them getting on drugs are reduced significantly. Does anybody agree with
I
what
absolutely
I said?
agree with
I'm
you,
disagree with
Michael.
what I said so
And
far.
I'm passing out to Thomas. We've
Hmm.
seen we've seen countries that have virtually collapsed. Haiti is a case in point. I mean, Haiti is right now is fighting a series of almost, I think, 2 years or so now. Anthony and Michael, they are the historian. They will probably take a dig at that. But Haiti is virtually being taken over. You have the drug laws who are running, street battles with government.
Yeah.
Peacekeeping troops have come in, And Liberia is a small country. It doesn't really require a lot of resources to overrun this country. And the guys are increasing the streets. And I hope to God they're not thinking about that. But there's a real serious risk here of us losing out to these guys. And the LDA lack of capacity only enables the infiltration and then the saturation of our society with these drugs.
Okay, thank you. Thomas, I'll get your final star at it. The four, five things I listed. I mean, do you
Totally,
disagree?
totally. No, I agree. And that's why in 2024, I had a serious problem with people who thought that every funding that the government was providing to fight drugs needed to go to LDEA. LDEA is just doing a part of the work, right? Even the Liberia Revenue Authority does work related to fighting drugs because they do customs.
Hmm.
You know, in modern customs administration, before the goods can even get to your country,
Hmm.
you have to be able to investigate. You have to be able to identify risks. Which are the importers that are risky in the sense that they will be able to bring drugs into the country? So that means we needed a cross government approach to be able to fight drugs, not only LDEA. And when you ask Victor about how things fell apart, this is why, and I agree with the point that he was making. When you set out a priority, you have to follow it through from the beginning to the end. Part of the reason why this thing fell off the radar was the crisis that took place at the LDEA.
Hmm.
You know, when AB and the team came there, they were so aggressive. They were
Yes.
going out there, going to those places. There were some places in Morovia that were literally no go zone for even the police. They couldn't go there. The guys are taking over completely over the past 6 years. But they managed to like break those places down. And then what was happening now is that they were just spreading across town because they had really broken down the places where they were sheltering themselves. And that became a major security issue. But for you to be able to really address the issue of drugs, to make sure you save this generation from being destroyed by drugs, it has to be an interagency work. We don't have jobs in the country. Many of the people who are falling prey to drugs are people who don't have jobs to do. So you have to make sure that you are expanding the economy and providing opportunities for people to work. If you have a piece of job to do, you have to get up 6 in the morning, you have to get car to go to work. What time do
Hmm.
you have to go and sit with your friends to be lecturing and they draw you into it? We also have this issue of peer pressure, right? The young people, they don't have playgrounds, they don't have places to spend time, like vacation programs. That's where their colleagues are getting them to get involved in this. The schools will also have to play a role because people are selling drugs even in schools now.
Oh, yes.
So whether it's the Ministry of Youth and Sport, whether it's the Ministry of Health, if the LEDA go and arrest people and go and put them somewhere, they need to be rehabilitated. The LDA has no capacity to rehabilitate people. It has to be the Ministry of Health that you have to draw into it. Then the Ministry of Gender has a role to play. They are responsible for all these vulnerable populations across the country. People who have HIV and AIDS, people who are on drugs and all of that. So I think that's why it was good for the government to have established this interagency working group to be able to address the issue of drugs. Because like you said, we need to stop it from coming to the country. And if it enters the country, we need to stop it from getting into the hands of people who are taking it.
Yeah.
If unfortunately it gets into their hand, how do we get it out of their system? So there are different agencies responsible for each of these things. So I think in the 2024 budget, there was some specific money that was put there around 400,000 for
Yeah.
push must go.
Yeah. Kush must go.
My my understanding is that in the 2025 budget, they decided to put it more under rule of law because you have most of the agencies that are fighting drugs fall under that rule of law in our budget classification. So the figure I saw is around 4 million that was put in the budget to just be able to address this whole issue of drugs, but more so focus on rule of law. So maybe prosecution will come in there, investigation will come in there, and all of that. But at this point in time, since it has been quiet for quite a while, I think I agree with those senators. Let the committee come and say what they are doing, how they are utilizing those resources, and if there is additional work that needs to be done to strengthen what they are doing, then they can do it.
Okay, thank you so much. I'll end with you, Anthony, before we go on to the next topic here. Just the things that have been listed. Do you have any disagreement on all this needs to be done simultaneously, together, in sync for for us to really have an effect against this drug epidemic?
No, I don't disagree. I just agree 100% with you and Tom. Brilliant point that you raised there. And Tom's kind of in full say in a very substantive way, bringing clarity to the issue. Yeah, the fight against drugs is not just the LDEA going out there to arrest people or who are dealing. You also mentioned that first of all, we have to find a way to prevent the drugs from coming in the country. That is the key thing. They say prevention is better than cure. If we are successful at preventing the drugs from coming in the country, if we are successful at arresting individuals who are importers, then we can stop the drugs from coming in the country. Then it will save us a lot of money. I was curious to ask Tom's about the economics of drugs. How can we save money in the fight against drugs? Maybe he will come in to elaborate a little bit because he's good with this, right? So if we're talking about saving, maybe we should emphasize on prevention. It shouldn't come in the country because when it enter the country, the budget will go up. Now we're talking about rehab center. We got to fund them, all right, so that they can be able to detox the young people. And you mentioned, and he agreed. Not only should we take the drugs from them, but when we take the drugs from them, do we allow them to go back in the community and become adult? We have to give them a sense of direction in terms of something they need to do so that they cannot go back to that life again. So, Tom, sorry that I have to bring you in because I think I want you to talk about how can we save money as we fight drugs because we have the fiscal space here that is very small. How can we engage in the fight so that we can spend more money? Malcolm mentioned earlier, I think the budget was around 2 million, and then it was 400,000 for the other program. How can we save money as we have a successful fight?
Yeah, so this is a very critical question, because drugs have immediate impact and they have long-term impact. So if you go into the economics of that, is kind of complicated. You have to look at it from different perspectives. Because, like you said earlier, the human capital is the most important capital that we have. It's not really the gold, the diamond, maybe the oil we're looking for off the coast of Maryland. All of those things can go away. But how do you even tap into those things? You need the ingenuity of your human capital. So if that human capital gets destroyed by drugs, then you basically don't have a country. Also, drugs can contribute to insecurity, like you were discussing Latin America. This is a very serious problem in Latin America. There are countries where portion of the country is basically taken away by these drug laws
Yes.
because they have to create space for the trade.
Yes.
If you have a legitimate government that is in place, it affects drug trade because drug trade is normally informal. It's not in the formal sector. You can't go and register and say, "Give me." You can't go to the Liberia Business Registry and say, "I want to register to bring Kush." They're not going to give it to you. So in many instances, the way it works is that they do it informally. So we call it normally the shadow economy. So they don't pay taxes. That means the government is losing. You don't make any taxes on them. They don't employ formally to people to work for them. So that means you can't get any income tax from them. So in many instances, it's taking away from the resources that the government needs to get. If they need to import it into the country, they might not come through the formal channel. Or what they will do is they will go through channels where people are already bringing goods into the country that are acceptable. Then they will hide it in those goods or containers that are coming. So you put a lot of burden on your customs officials to be able to investigate all those containers. So I'm just saying drugs bring a lot of added cost in addition to just those people that take it. So the
That's
economy of it is that it increases our cost for security, for surveillance, and all of that. And when these Zogos were becoming many in Liberia, people had started going home by 4, 5. Because
yes.
if you stay on Broad Street by 6:30, they will jack your phone, they will do everything to you. It then affects the economy because it's reducing economic activities. In the end, the growth that you need to achieve, you will not achieve it. So how to reduce all of that cost is to invest in security, border control to make sure that it doesn't come in. If it comes in, make sure you are apprehending the person who's bringing it, prosecute them, show an example to discourage the next person that is bringing it in. Because we are not manufacturing these things in Liberia, except for maybe grass that people are growing on their farms. But like the kush and the cocaine, we're not doing it domestically. So if you improve border control to stop it from coming in, and if it comes in, make sure you apprehend it, the LDA go and burn it and give that signal that there's no space for it here, you reduce that cost and then invest in rehabilitation. So the few people that fall prey to it, bring them back and make them productive people so that you don't lose your labor force. So I think this investment that the government is doing right now is like we can see it as huge money, 4 million, but it's saving us costs that we spend in the future when
Yeah.
the young people are so distraught that they cannot contribute to the economy. And our country becomes so insecure to the extent where the drug laws will now see it as a porous place to be able to move drugs, maybe into other countries. So I think when you look at the economics of it, it's better for us to spend more money now, 4 million, 5 million, 6 million, to save us from further expenditure in the future that could go into multi-million dollars and destroy the future of the country.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. And I know you talk about 3, 4, 5 million. I really think, if you were to ask me, I really believe that the DEA budget should not be anywhere under 20 million, to be honest with you. We need, one of the things I noticed after the war, I believe it was immediately after the war, for those who are old enough to remember, um, we had a group called SATU. Those guys made security look good. Their dress, the way they carry themselves, their equipment. I mean, like, we want to see something. We want to see something, investment, true investment. We want to see DEA with new equipment, with vehicles, with drug testing labs, with trained dogs. We want to, let us see a significant investment in DEA that is effective. And not just the budget item. That's just my thing. I think 20 million should be the baseline. You know, look, if Liberia becomes a transport point, it will affect a lot of first world countries. America, France, bring those people in. Say, look, help us so we do not become it. Because Liberia cannot absorb the drug economy. We can get money. What is happening in Liberia now? Liberia is becoming a transit point. It might even become a production point. It's very close to becoming a production point. I won't be surprised one day, the 8 years old, they went to the Cheetah Forest, and there's a huge lab there. I wouldn't be surprised. Those countries will come in, they will pour in because they don't want you to turn to a transit point because then it affects them. They got another war to fight. There's so many ways we can do it, but I know it's a lengthy thing. I don't think we'll ever get done with a drug one, but we have others to go to.
Right, just give me 5 seconds. Let me put it in context, right?
Okay, I'll give you 5 seconds. I'll get kind of 5 seconds.
You talk about transit point. Let me just say this: during the Weir administration, we heard $100 million worth of drugs came in.
Yeah.
So you're talking about you giving the DLDA $2 million to fight $100 million one shipment. If those guys can even tip the LDA $10 million, they will open the doors wide. I'm not saying that's what AB Kurman was doing.
Mm-hmm.
And right after that, there was another shipment, I think, for $25 million or $40 million. So the gap is big. And I agree with you guys. You and Thomas and Anthony, you're saying it. If we're gonna be serious about it, we have to really take it serious and invest in it. But giving them $2 million, $3 million here is not going to stop the problem. And I just trying to put that in context so that
I know.
I'm sure that's the magnitude of what we're dealing with.
Kanye, I'll give you 10 seconds. Go ahead. And
No, I totally agree with you. I think from 2023 to 2024, the LDA budget went up by 111%. So that means they basically multiply by 2 and give them the resources that they need. But the bigger problem in the country is that we don't have the resources to do that level of investment. I agree with you. They should have these trained dogs. Like I'm saying, border security, the LDA, the other institution is LIS, Liberia Immigration Services.
Yeah.
They also have a bigger role here to play. The port needs to have modern scanners so that you can scan these things. Part of the work that we are doing at the port now, a lot of investment is going to the port. I was watching a video, it says Liberia want to be Singapore on the coast of West Africa. You do all of that investment and you serve as a transit route for transatlantic trade. You have to be careful with those things because people can then, if you don't have the capacity, they can channel those things. And this is one reason part of the five countries that were invited the other day to the West Africa to the summit with the president of the US, Guinea-Bissau. It doesn't have much of the resources that we are talking about for the energy transition, but Guinea-Bissau was invited. Why? Because there are people concerned that Guinea-Bissau is, if measures are not taken, is serving as one of those transit points across the West Africa coast. So they were part of the delegation.
Hmm.
So I think I agree with you. We really will have to invest not only to fight it locally within our geographic space, but we don't become a transit point so that
Yes.
people can bring it from Latin America onto our coast and then they can take it to Europe and other markets where the money is.
Absolutely, absolutely. Let me just throw this info. Go to our next topic. One of the penalties for drug trafficking in Singapore is the death penalty. That's how serious they take it. In Singapore, they actually do the death penalty in Singapore. Okay, so Liberia. We're talking Liberia, people. Uh, this past week we saw county officials, superintendents, and other county council members are called to the hill. When I say the hill, I'm talking about Capitol Hill, by the lawmakers, um, concerning development funds, how things are supposed to be rolled out, who's supposed to do what. Um, uh, uh, Kind of, I'm gonna give you a minute just to kind of to kind of bring us up to speed on what really has been happening here concerning this. Is this, and I'm gonna put this out there. Are we really seeing oversight here, or are we seeing a tug of war between forces here on who should control what? Let me give you a minute here to roll this out.
This is very interesting, you know. So let me give the context. I think it's more of a battle over power and resources, which to me is not good for our country. Like with Dennis and I had a show the other day, decentralization has been something that has been promoted since the 1990s. And so, if you look at the region, for instance, that we are in, many of the countries, you go to Ghana, they have local government system. You look at East Africa, Uganda, Kenya, Rwanda, all of these countries have local government system. The reason why that wave of decentralization crossed over us was because that was the time we were fighting. So we fought from 1990 all the way to 2003. So by that time, many of these countries have gone far. So in those countries, nobody discussing again who can pass the local government budget. It's completely in the hands of local government authorities. Who can deliver services like primary education is in the hands of local government because if it is their responsibility, then they have to allocate the funds for it. So after our civil war, we started to work on decentralization with the governance commission. The first proposal that was made around 2008, 2009 was to go straight off with elections. So if you were back in Liberia from 2006, 7, 8, 9, you have seen those uh, 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 how they call it, these babos that were around the counties. Elect your county superintendents, elect your county superintendents. But that did not move forward because there's a provision in the Constitution, I think Article 51, that says that the president will appoint ambassadors, they name a list of government officials, and that includes superintendents. So when the law eventually went to parliament, that was removed. So our local government law was passed in 2018. And it is that law that sets the structures in place at the local government level. So you have the county council, which is more like a representation of the legislature at the county level. So when the county development plans are developed, it is that council that can adopt it. When there are taxes and fees to be levy at the county level, it is that council that can adopt them. So it's similar to the work that the legislature does. But the local government law provides that the legislature we have to transfer some of those responsibilities to them. So, like levying taxes, for instance, the legislature is going to adopt like a resolution or do or take an action that can now say to the counties that you have the authority, the county council can levy taxes and they can be able to perform some of the functions related to taxation. The law also says that these county council members they cannot be paid salaries because it's not a full-time job. I think they need to be convening four times in a year on a quarterly basis. And then they can come for emergency meetings. So because they are playing a role in delivering service, there are remunerations that need to be given to them. They call it honorarium. But that honorarium needs to be set by the legislature, the range, to say it will be between maybe 100 and 300 or $400. So since the law was passed in 2018, we are 5 years down the line. The legislature has not done that. So part of what the counties are doing now is to come up with an arrangement to say, if you guys are coming to meet on a quarterly basis, maybe we'll give you $50 or we'll give you $60. Then the senator for Grand Cape Mar County, Senator Simeon Taylor, complained to the Senate that the people are violating the law. But that violation is because the legislature has not done what it needed to do. So I think it's like you are saying, it's just a fight. We are coming from the point where the legislature, the Senate, the representative from Grand Judea County, Senator Jeremiah Sokan, has submitted a law for them to amend the Local Government Act to take that authority from the counties to pass the budget and to adopt the Local Government Act. There's a bill that has been submitted by a lawmaker from Grand Bassa County to pass a new law for electoral districts to get money. That means in our budget, we'll put money for electoral district 1, Grand Bassa County, electoral district 2, Grand Judea County. And then someone is complaining that the people are not following the rules and regulations in the law. So I think the country is just grappling with this transition from centralization to decentralization. The entire legislature does not want to let go of that authority in terms of controlling resources at the subnational level. And like I'm saying, other countries have passed this. We are just the one at this level. And I think they just need to give chance for decentralization to take place, and
Let
then
me
they
ask
can
you a
retain
quick question.
oversight at the national
Let me
level.
ask you a quick question. How did they come out with the amounts for each county? Was that a legislative thing? Like, was it the legislature that came out and say, okay, each county will get certain amount for development fund, or was it a county that came out with that?
So the county development fund started in 2006. It's kind of different, right? So when the governance commission was working on the local government law, before the local government law, they developed the local government and decentralization policy that was adopted in 2011. And it is in that policy that clearly stated what Liberia would decentralize or devolve and what will not be decentralized. So, for instance, the policy said that the judiciary will not be, the function of the judiciary will not be devolved. So that means no county can have a Supreme Court. Elections will not be devolved. Monetary policy with the central bank will not be devolved. So those were very clear. But they said the functions of the legislature and the executive will be devolved. So while the law was being worked on, that's how Madam Salif regime decided that we cannot wait for the law to pass. Maybe it will pass in 10, 15 years. Let's put some money in the budget for counties to start solving the problems that they have. So that's how the county development fund came.
Okay.
That's the nomenclature of it. So initially it was 66,000. When it came up, everybody, civil society, criticized it in 2007, and then it went to 200,000. So up to now, every time the budget is passed, every county needs to get 200,000 for local development. That is, you don't have to come to Moreover for these basic things. But
Now, let me
before
ask you
now,
a question before we go to the next. Before I go to Anthony,
yeah.
and besides this, so the county council controls this 200,000, and
So
the
yeah, so that's what I just wanted to clarify. Before the law was passed in 2018, the arrangement for the allocation of that 200,000 was something we used to call county sitting. So in that county sitting, the authority for calling that county sitting was with the legislature. So the county caucuses for the different counties. They used
yes,
to call the county sitting every year. So they will invite the county superintendent, they will invite people from the electoral districts, and then they go to the county sitting meeting. In that county sitting meeting, the women, the youth, and people will be there. They will decide how to allocate the 200,000. They say, okay, we'll build one house for a paramount chief. We'll renovate the county building. Then we'll provide scholarship for the students. So at the end of that county sitting, there was a resolution that came out of it. All of the delegates will sign. It goes to the Ministry of Internal Affairs for adoption. Then it's sent to the Ministry of Finance. Once it is sent to the Ministry of Finance, they can now release the money. And at the county level, we have something we call Project Management Committee. They
yes,
will preside over the implementation of those projects. But the real authority was the county caucus. With the local government law, the point now is that no, since we have a local government law, the county council cannot, the county caucuses cannot continue to preside over these local forms. So
Okay.
that means it has transitioned now to the structure that is in the Local Government Act, where you have the county council, you have advisory councils at the district level, and all of that. So this is where the fight is coming from because of that transition.
Okay. All right. Okay. Anthony,
Yeah.
um, we have so what I've learned so far is that we have one group, which is we have the local law, the local government law that should be implemented, where things should be handled on the local level, and then we have politicians that their aim is to stay in power, to retain their seats. And in order to retain their seats, the question that is asked them every 6 years for the senators, every 9 years is, what have you done for the people? And it seems like this is the question that the answer to that question they want to keep control of. And the way how to do that is to tie their names to the spending in the county. Um, do you see any way that we can divest ourselves from this, or basically do we have just government officials that are just going to hang on to power by hanging on to the people's money and calling it their money and their spending when it comes to local government?
Uncle, yes, there's a way. And that way is the implementation of the local government or the local government act that Thomas brilliantly explained. Thomas has been following this local government law, its implementation, so that our local governments can become functional, autonomous, and make decisions to relieve national government of the burden, because the bureaucracy is so big, and when you look at government in terms of efficiencies, it's poor. So if the local governments are allowed to be autonomous, to handle their own finances and implement projects for the development of the country, I think we'll be getting somewhere. I am a huge fan of that, and Thomas is as well. That is why he devoted his time to understanding or how we can transition. He gave you the history of that. At a time, other countries were doing it, were fighting war, and now war's over. We're trying to get to it. And he summed it all clearly. Why are we having a fight over this here? It's a fight about power and control. The lawmakers want to have control of the money and power. They want to be seen as the most powerful people in the counties. Politically speaking, our people look up to their leaders, especially those who are seen as the most powerful people. They want to be their friend. They want to chop from them. All right. And they lawmakers want to be seen as the one who are the implementers of the projects, all right, that are going on in the county that are intended to impact the citizens of those counties. Now, then the people will have every reason now to politically reciprocate by voting them. That is how they maintain power. All right. And once they have power, they get money. And this is what is going on. Now, the problem here is because of the agree and a lack of understanding. Because the best way they can serve the counties is to provide oversight, advocate for more funding, all right, for the local governments that they represent in the legislature. All right. And that is where now our services will become a little more efficient in the counties. And, someone told you about the 200,000 man. So they said, well, passing the law will take more time. So let 566,000. I said, no, it's small. Let's move it to 200,000. Let the county start taking some responsibilities, start implementing some projects and solving some problems in the county. The lawmaker ran behind that money. They even will summon the superintendent to explain to them this and what. They want to have a decision to make in the 200,000. They don't even they don't even see that the 200,000 is no money for an entire county. Look for my county of Grand Crew, for example. What can 200,000 do? Maybe 200,000 can renovate one of the high school, right? And that's the bare minimum it can do. And that's the money they are running behind. For them to local counties, no, there are so much needs here. All right. How can we advocate to put more money in the budget? How can we make our superintendent to be independent? All right. So that money we advocate for in the budget for schools, for hospitals, even for roads. All right. Or can we even start thinking about our own public works, for example, because Thomas brilliantly explained that the devolution of power we're talking about is the legislative branch of government, all right, and the executive branch of government. Now the judiciary, all right, because it will lessen the burden on the executive and the first branch of government. It will bring about efficiency. Our leaders need to understand this. That is what they are not getting. Once they get it, their work will even be easier. Do you know why somebody will be senator in the United States for 30 years, Joe Biden, for example? It's because the burden of what goes on in Delaware is not on his shoulders. His job is easy to make
Yeah.
noise. No, more money must go to Delaware. More money must go to Delaware. And when Delaware gets the money, there is a local government there or the state government, all right, that are going to implement. In fact, the state is generating its own revenue. The cities are levying taxes, all right, to collect money, to carry on. So the main job is easy. Once I make small noise in our play, the state will say, yeah, that our senator speaking. We need to educate our lawmakers to understand it in this way.
Okay.
Have
All
that,
right.
you don't have that understanding because they are narrow-minded. I say, well, if the people see me at a one berry hemp, they will vote for me again. And that is not improving the quality of life in your country. So that poor representation at the end of the day, you are giving your people.
Yeah.
And which is sad.
All right. Mr. Nangwe,
Call
the
the man
fight,
veteran now. Call the man veteran.
the veteran Nangwe,
And the man can speak beautiful English too.
the, one of the fights of the progressive, it wasn't just national leadership, but it was a call to govern ourselves, even on a local level. Um, and now we see when the government has moved to actually create laws to do these things, we see a fight back again. It like okay, I won't get to you, but at the same time again, I won't hold it. I think Dr. Dunn so eloquently illustrated that he said um, the changing of the guard and then guarding the change. There's actually a book called Changing of the Guard, Guarding the Change. This is pretty much what I'm seeing here. Um, do our people fully understand this? Or are we about to see? Um, because there's a lot of silence in the community, in the counties. When it comes to local government, do our people fully understand local government and what it means for them? And if not, I mean, what kind of message do we send to them so that they grasp that this is for them?
Yeah. And thank you, Michael. Thomas very, very eloquently, he gave the chronology of how this whole thing developed. Anthony also expanded on that. This devolution of power from the executive mansion is something that's been going on for a long time. If you remember, as in the mid '80s, Eamon Sawyer was trying to run for mayor of Monrovia because we were arguing that the mayors and superintendents and such people should be elected, right, to make them accountable to the people for an efficient local governance. That has not happened. And now here we are. Even the funding that Thomas talked about, I know because when I we started associating here in Marylanders, we realized that that money though is in the budget, but the money is never disbursed to the counties. I know Maryland County for over 4 years under the WEA government. I don't know about now. Or under the Ellen government, I think the WEA government, they never got that money. The legislators who come here, the money is in the budget, but the money is never disbursed. And he's right. That's how it's being envisioned that the people will come and sit and decide how to divvy up the money, and they will agree on the projects. Based on that, then the legislature will help them, go and get the funding and bring in. That's how we're hoping that's how it's going to work. But coming back to what you said, Dr. Dunn wrote, that is, I think, the next frontier now, sensitizing the people to understand now that you have this, enormous powers to dictate how your government functions. You have to claim it, and we started the show with protests and all of that. Maybe that's one of the that's the medium we've chosen now to use. But our people need to understand that you do have the power to dictate the function of your government, and if it be by protest, we have to continue to let them know. But right now, the presidency is still an imperial presidency in Liberia, and we're having difficulties, legislature and the county council, all of that. But I think the problem really starts from the top. This president and the president before him and presidents before him are still appointing mayors of Plibo City, township commissioners, you know,
Yeah.
and all of that, all this power needs to be taken from the executive mansion. They need to localize it, and that's why this whole decentralization, I think, is supposed to help us do. It's going to be a difficult fight, but I agree. We've been agitating for the change, and I think it's coming where we can freely express what we feel about governance. We now need to find a way so that we can channel that energy into dictating to our legislators and our, government functionaries what we want them to do. Much of that is not happening. I know we were talking earlier about the superintendents gathering in Monrovia, meeting with the lawmakers and all of that. There is still this patron peon, relationship. And
Yeah.
just some of these people feel they're bigger than other people. I'm not going to say that, but what right does a legislator have to bring down a superintendent and lecture him or her on
So let me tell you
what?
what the people say now. Let me tell you what the people say.
Right.
According to the legislature, they say that when they go in the country, the people then can be questioning them. The people can be questioning them. So what thing happened to our money?
Right.
And so thing we complain about what thing happened. So they are saying that they are getting questions from the constituents,
Yeah.
okay, on why so and so thing not happening and why so, and because they are getting questions from the constituents, and they need to call in the local leaders to ask them to grill them on what is happening and what is not happening.
And Thomas will correct me here, Michael. I think there are two different funds. There is the County Development Fund, which I think comes directly from the government. Then there is the Corporate Social Development Fund, which I think comes from concessions in the area. If you remember Prince Johnson and all of this fight over because the County Development Fund is not coming. So what Nimba was getting was, the fund from places like Salamitel and all of that, which still the government was not releasing regularly.
Mhm.
So, and I think it's a mistake. All of the money they're giving the legislators, they run from 30,000. Now we're hearing 100,000. That is the money that they're supposed to put in the pot so that the council can all sit and say, okay, for Bapulu candidate, this is what we want our money to do, and let's go ahead and do it. And that's how we envision it. So instead of doing that, they're passing the money now through the legislators, I think. And I think that's the wrong way to go about it. So we
One
still have
final,
a long way to go.
one final question. Final question before I move on to. I got one question here for you, Thomas. So you're not off the hook yet. But Victor,
And thank God we were worried that his internet was not going to last the duration of the show.
oh nah, yeah, it's true right now. So one of the things we heard Prince Johnson complain about up to his death was that the government had received money for Nima County from Asalamita, and the government was refusing to release that money. Do you think the money for Nimba should go to the central government, or should that money be given directly to Nima County, or whatever portion for Nima County? Do you think there should be this roundabout movement of money, or should the money come directly to Nima County or
I
to
think
any
as,
county that the
as,
social
as,
development fund is
as
supposed
Thomas and Anthony come in, I think that the whole concept of the revenue sharing, I think the provision should be made because right now what is happening, I think all of that money comes to Monrovia.
to?
And then
Yes.
Monrovia decides to give whatever 10% or whatever it is back to the county. But the problem is when that money comes, even the low percentage that's supposed to go back, most often than not, it doesn't.
Hmm.
And this is what so the people should have that right to hold theirs right away and send government portion. And then, that way I think there's going to be more efficiency in disbursing that money. But, I'll give it to Thomas and Anthony.
Thomas, the same thing. The same thing. Are you? Prince Johnson complained. And when I talk about 100,000, 200, talk about millions of dollars that the government was sitting on, and they were using it for other things. They were borrowing. They were borrowing Nima Kante money to run government, and Nima Kante needed this money. Do you think this is how things should, or should Nima Kante get Nima Kante money?
So that's true. And I mean, in the previous response, I didn't add the county the social development fund.
Yes,
Like Mr. Nangbe said, the social development fund come from these concessions.
yes,
So every time a mineral development agreement is signed between the government of Liberia and whether it's Metasti, is Golden Verulium in Sano County, there's a portion of money that goes to the community.
hmm,
Because in many instances, you are displacing community members, you are destroying their livelihood, you are maybe polluting the environment. So
that's
these
their
funds
wealth.
are yeah, right, right. So
Yeah,
these social development funds are given to the community so that it can address some of the limitations of these concessions.
hmm,
And it's also done in such a way that, you remember a couple of years ago, there used to be demonstrations in Nimba County. The people
yes,
will come on the train track and they will put cut trees and put it on the train track that will stop Metal Steel from actually getting the ore from the
yes,
mines in Nimba to Grand Basso. So
yes.
to address some of these problems, the county social development fund is provided in the budget. Initially, the county development fund used to be separate.
Hmm.
The social development fund used to be separate. But around 2012, 2013, with a lot of civil society advocacy, they decided to merge the two together. That it was going to the county for the same development purpose. So now they call it the county social development fund.
Okay,
But everything comes from the national budget because this is complex because at the national level, we have a public financial management system, right?
okay,
In PFM, there is something we even call a single treasury account. That means the government of Liberia needs to have a single account. All the money that we get, it goes into that account. If the Minister of Health wants to buy vaccine, they can go and do the procurement, and the Minister of Finance will just approve, and that money will come from the consolidated fund.
yes,
That ways, the Minister of Finance know exactly how much money we have balance that is left. So if he needs to go and borrow small money because tomorrow we don't have enough revenue that comes from the LRA and all the government entities that are collecting money, he will know because it's almost like your personal account. Every
yeah,
time you do a transaction, it will tell you the remaining balance, right?
yeah.
So that's what the single treasury account does for the government. The Minister
Okay,
of Finance needs to know at any point in time. But the way we are operating in Morovia right now, you go to the Ministry of Health, they can have sometimes 10 accounts.
hmm,
Sometimes the Ministry of Finance will transfer money to the Ministry of Health for a workshop, but the workshop is postponed. So that money gets settled in that account and it's not doing anything. It's just sitting out there. If you have a single treasury account, the Ministry of Finance can withdraw that money and send it to Ministry of Labor. And tell the Ministry of Health, when you're ready for your workshop, we'll send money to you. So it is because of that way of managing public finances that the consolidated account is created at the central bank. So that's why all the social development fund and all the contributions come to the consolidated fund, and then the Ministry of Finance can allocate it because the Ministry of Finance needs to track the movement of money.
okay. I agree.
So
Look
that's why it
at
comes to
talking
Mauritius.
about
But the difficulty, yeah, I come to your point now.
let's get to the
The
other part.
difficulty, the other part is when the money comes to Morovia, it's supposed to go to Nimba. But
Mm-hmm.
by the time they come to Morovia, then Mamba Molu will say he won't demonstrate. Then they will take that money, they give it to the police to go buy water for them.
Uh-huh.
So that means the government then uses the money for other purposes that is not intended for, that money was not intended for, which creates the problem.
Yes.
And it has been a problem with even Meta Steel. They have been arguing that, okay, let the Ministry of Finance allow us to directly give portion of the money to the community because when you go Morovia, it's not coming back.
And not coming back.
It's not going to come. And then the people will demonstrate, they will stop us from carrying on our operation. So I think there is some flexibility that needs to be done. It's not only the county development fund, even the forestry contracts. In the forestry law, there are community organizations that are set up to manage the community forest. Every
Hmm.
time there is a forestry activity taking place, a logging activity taking place in a community, there are some funds that need to go to them. But the past 6 years, the previous government under President Weah was just a kind of government that never released those funds. County
Yeah.
development fund money was not going. Social development fund money was not going. The forestry money was not going. So that is what that actually aggravated Senator Johnson to pull his support away from the CDC because
And
they have
now you
almost
have the politics, right? Because
9 million.
when you pull your support from the government, eh, then what encouragement do I have to send your development fund to you? Because if the senator in Lofa County is on the government side and he support the government, I send in Lofa County money for it before I send Nima County money. I control it. If I have to pay salaries, one of the big things about government in Liberia is the government salary current. If I have to pay salary for send social development fund, I will pay government salary because I want to be able to boast that government salaries are current. Let me ask you one last question before we move on to our final thing here.
No, to that point that you're making, it's not only you as a government.
Uh-huh.
In the PFM law, it stated that the first claim on government money is paying debt.
Ah,
So all the loans that you owe to African Development Bank, World Bank, and all the banks that you owe, the PFM law says that the first claim when you get 100 before you even pay salary, you have to take that money and say, I owe these people, I will pay. Then the second claim is what? Salary.
salary,
But if you listen to Samuel Tuer, all the time he was finance minister, he used to say, for me, the first claim is what? Salary.
salary,
Where I pay
salary
salary
not
now,
debt, salary not debt. But let me ask you one last question. Because we talk about this little talk between legislators and local county officials. But let me. So I'm a representative, first time representative. Let's just imagine, I'm a representative, first time representative, and the person that feel very close to me is on the county council, and I know that man's eyeing my seat. You understand what I'm saying to you? That man in that county is eyeing my seat. Now, yeah, I'm a representative. Am I supposed to turn all this over to this man for him to be passing all around the country, billing everything, knowing very well 5 years from now that man will announce his intention to run for representative and take me from my seat?
So this is the fundamental issue because around 2012,
Mm-hmm.
most of the county superintendents that Madam Seli appointed ended up running for senator.
Ah,
In Reboji, in Milton TJ, before he
mm-hmm.
became senator of Sano County, was superintendent of what? Sano
Sando County.
County.
Yeah.
Galapa Kotimai was superintendent of Lofa County, and he ran to be what? Senator of Lofa County. So almost all of them were running.
Mm-hmm.
So this is the fear. And I said this on the show the other day where one of the prominent officials in the government said now that one man said he brought the local government law to us. One of our fear was why if we go to election, then a county superintendent in Nimba County, for instance, come up with 300,000 votes. Then you, the senator, you get 150,000, you vote. You win with 150,000 votes. The superintendent will be passing around and say, well, I get more vote than him. What kind of thing he can be told? Right? So
Yeah.
that fear was there.
Mm-hmm.
But let's go back to is there even now when the
Is
county
there?
council members and the Senate, the superintendents came to the Senate, the superintendent of Bapolu said it. Plain brain. Oh, the senator, he won't run from the superintendent won't run from a position and all of that. So that fear is there. But how do you solve the problem? You solve the problem by demarcating your roles and responsibilities, like Anthony was saying.
Mm-hmm.
This is something that is actually going to free the national lawmakers. You don't have to go and be digging hand pump. The local government will do it for you. So the way you go and tell your people that I was the one that made sure all of this thing is happening is to say I advocated for the money to be allocated in the budget. So it doesn't matter who is actually implementing. If the funds don't come, they don't get implemented. So let them go back to their role of what? Policy making, law making at the national level, and then give the space for the local governments to deliver the service. In the end, you can still argue that you were the one that made sure that all of these things happen because you are passing the laws. If they had not even passed the law, how will local government be existing today? So they
Okay.
need to be proud of that. But they still have not gotten this. You
No.
can't be running from Morovia, then you go be digging hand pump when you have a role to play in Morovia. And this is one reason why our national government is weak on policy. Because the national authority don't have enough time to invest in research and develop policies because they are focusing on service delivery. The
Okay.
Ministry of Education, for instance, is making sure that schools in Grand Crew are not leaking, that they have copy books, they have ink pen. Just give all of that to the local governments. And then you can focus on developing an AI strategy because we're going into the war of AI now. We don't
Yeah.
have anything like that. So they are too bent on service delivery at the community level. Let them get out of it. Let the lawmakers also focus on national issue. They can still make that argument. And
It,
then I
it,
think it will bring competition because you know that the county superintendent coming run for your position. Then you
yeah,
got to do your best on Capitol Hill. Because some people spending 6 years and they don't submit a law, they don't do anything. They just there.
Oh,
absolutely. So
and
it,
and and
go ahead,
and
Anthony.
Michael, let
I
me
wanted to
tell
ask
you.
one. I wanted to throw one question at you to close
Yeah,
this.
yeah. Go ahead. Go ahead. Come with your
You
question.
know, when you know how you got to somewhere,
Mhm,
hmm? When
mhm,
you know how you got to somewhere, right?
mhm.
You it feeds your fear. Most of these people that were elected were not elected on policy. They were elected because they were building hemp on and doing projects physically on the ground. And now you're telling them, allow other people to do those projects. Let the people see the other people. But your position should be policy. I hope you understand the fear these people have.
And though fear from the way they look at it,
Mm-hmm.
those are legitimate fear. It's practical.
Mm-hmm.
Someone will tell you in Liberia, they say the young people will say, "Where are the tangibles? Where are the tangibles?" So the people want to see the tangible. The young people that are coming out, that's their war. And where are the tangible? Where are the tangibles? So this lawmaker is saying, no, I have to show the tangibles in order to get elected. And that tangible that the hemp on, that the little L-shaped school, that all the school that L, and right, that
Mm-hmm.
little clinic. And, so they want to be there to show the tangible so they can get elected. I argue here that they are not looking at it the right way.
Yeah.
They are
Yeah.
trying to burden themselves. First of all, the local government, I support the idea that let the superintendent be elected.
Mm-hmm.
Let the city mayors be elected.
Mm-hmm.
All right. When they are elected, they too have a responsibility. The same fear the very lawmakers are having.
Mm-hmm.
The superintendents and the city mayor will be having a fear that I have to deliver. So when the budget is passed, the money given to them, they will make sure that they implement those projects, all right, that will provide the services that are needed in the counties. Because if they do, they don't, the people will vote them out.
Mm-hmm.
And so, similar to the lawmaker, they are saying, well, I want people to see that I don't want renovating the school. I want the people to see I don't want building the hemp pump. That's the only way I get elected. So, you, the superintendent, you, the city mayor, in order to earn your re-election, when the money is given to you as county administrator, you want to make sure that the schools are renovated. Now, for you, the lawmaker, now, Tomo alluded to this, and I said, look, argue that you advocated for $2 million to go to Grand Crew County.
Mm-hmm.
This amount for school, this amount for hospital, and that. You can make that argument. And now you can tell the superintendent, now you can tell the city mayor what happened to the school. What happened to the money we put in the budget for the school. If those things are not done, then you can tell the people, well, hold your superintendent accountable. I
Mm-hmm.
did everything for the money to get in the budget. Now you can even, as oversight, you can even summon your superintendent to say, I want to know what happened to the county money.
Mm-hmm.
And when the people in the county are hearing that, oh, this is not happening because the superintendent did not do it, because the city mayor did not do it, the lawmaker play his part, they might elect you. And now it also makes it possible for the representative now to say, look, I want my county to be able to handle the issue of the roads. We just need maybe 5 yellow machines, for example. We'll train our own people, work with the county government to train our own people. These people can be on the road. In South Time, my hometown, when I was coming up, we didn't have yellow machines, but I saw my parents, I saw my big brothers with cutlasses in their hand. From
Mm-hmm.
down East Southtown going all the way to Nronkia, with cutlass in their hand, all right, breaching alongside the road. They did that,
Mm-hmm.
all right. So if we have 4 5 yellow machines and people are trained to be able to use those things to greater the road to make sure the roads are pliable by cars and motorbikes and even people who are walking, because most of the time we walk, right? We'll be
Yeah.
getting somewhere. And I want to add finally that I actually support, and I think Thomas support this, that The national budget should be allocated on the basis of counties, but we have to solve and agree that the local government act will be in full swing. That will have our superintendents are elected, our city mayors are elected, and then budget is on the basis of, because I want to go to Grand Crew and serve. I can become the administrator to the superintendent. I will provide him with ideas. All right, for us to do it. Now you generate a competition between the counties. If Grand Cruz say, "Well, our 10 million, I think what we need more is, maybe education." They put most of it in. Maybe they develop a little technical college that are teaching. Now somebody from Maryland say, "We are going to Grand Cruz." There are not many people there, so the teachers they are giving all the attention to the student for them to, actually master what they are teaching, and so are going to Grand Cruz. So I can decide, well, I'm going to Nimba County. And because Nimba is doing well when it comes to agriculture. I want to be, I want to learn about agriculture and become a farmer. Competition is starting, and that's how we do it. I think we have to do it because for over 170 years now, the national budget has been appropriated on the central government level, ministry and agency. Those things are not trickling down to the counties. We are relying on a minimum budget of 200 million for the counties that the lawmakers will run after, and nothing gets done. I think let's start something new that time. That's why I support the local government act.
Quite recently, a Bond County lawmaker, I can't remember if it was Prince Moy or not. Correct me if I'm wrong. He actually disrupted a program dedicating, was it a bridge in Bond County? Because they didn't call him to the program. Because they did not call him to the program. Even though he allocated the money, he made sure everything was, but because the people did not call him to the program to recognize him, he disrupted the entire program and said, no, there will be no program here until you call me. Because he felt fear that if they don't see me to that program, they will feel that I'm doing anything, that somebody else will take the blame. But anyway, my take, I think it boils down to the literacy of the Liberian public, and what I mean by that is we need an educated citizenry, because an educated citizenry will understand exactly what Thomas is saying and how Thomas is laying this out. That educated citizenry will understand the path of the money. They're not just looking for the hand pump, but they will understand that before that hand pump could come, somebody had to fight for it in the budget. And that person there, they deserve our thanks also. And so what I'm saying is that a lot of people, a lot of politicians have unduly capitalized on the lack of education in the voting public. And it is showing now that's what is feeding their fear. And I hope they understand this and understand that it does not help them. What really helps them is an educated voting bloc that people can understand. This is my role. My role is not to be there every day dedicating hand pump. No. My job is to be on Capitol Hill, getting the money and sending it to your senator. So you hold your senator for certain things, you hold your mayor for certain things, you hold your community chairman for certain things. Educated citizenry. It's not a bad thing, people. Finally, let's talk about this port issue. There was a bill that was originated in the Senate. A lot of people say this was originated by the
Can you
program.
give me can you give me 30 seconds before we move on?
Yes, absolutely. Go ahead.
So there are limitations in the different processes, and they've been addressed through some additional laws. So, for instance, the criticism on the county development fund is that it doesn't take the size of the county and the population into consideration. So you were giving 200,000 to Nimba County and the same 200,000 to Bomi County. The two of them don't have the same development needs, right? So part of the way that is solved in the local government law is there is something that is provided for equalization fund. So that means if a county is left behind too much, there will be specific resources that will go to that county for them to equalize with
Yeah.
other counties. Then in 2021, after the local government law was passed in 2018, in 2021, there is a revenue sharing formula. There is a revenue sharing law that has been passed. So the arrangement is that There are specific taxes now that have been given to local governments that you can collect that. So property tax, besides Monrovia, which is the capital city, Nimba County will be collecting property tax by itself, and that money they collect will remain there for development. They
Absolutely.
can also collect taxes on business. Before you do business in Liberia, for instance, we call it business license fee. You pay some little money
Yeah.
to the local government. So there will be those resources that they will be collecting that will remain in the county. Then at the national level, the taxes now that are collected for all of us, like the ones that LRA is collecting at the port, because you cannot decentralize. They say Niba County, when somebody pass through you, you collect your own money. Maryland, you collect your money. What will happen to counties that don't have ports? So customs, personal income tax, value added tax, all of that will be collected by the Liberia Revenue Authority. And then that law provides now that there will be revenue sharing between the central government and the local governments on that portion of money that is collected by the national government. And that
Yes.
revenue formula says that the money will be shared based on land size. So the bigger your county, the more money you will get. Your population. The
Yes.
more your population, the more money you will get.
Yeah.
And then there is something we call development indicators. If you have more educated people, your money will come down because we want to focus money on people on counties that don't have more educated people. So there are 5 criteria in that revenue sharing law that will make sure that money is transferred from the national government to the sub-national government for development purposes. So my whole thing about this thing is that decentralization has more benefits that will benefit the citizens if this national authority, especially the legislature, can give chance for this law to be implemented. The local government law, the revenue sharing formula law, and all of these things, it will benefit the people. If I can also conclude on this, it will also benefit the politicians themselves, and they are just undercutting themselves, right? Let's take, for instance, if the county superintendents were elected, the CDC in 2023 won more counties than Unity Party, even though Unity Party, the coalition won the presidency, right? I think CDC won 8 out of 17 counties. So if we were electing county superintendents and those 8 county superintendents were CDC superintendents, but now CDC will partially be in power in those counties. They
Yeah.
can counter what the central government is doing. They could still continue the pro housing that the CDC was doing. But because you could not allow that to happen, when they are taking you out of power, they remove you altogether.
Yeah.
Then you are gone. You cannot do anything. So even the lawmakers today that want to preserve over the budget, when you are not in the legislature, how do you pass the county budget? You will
Yeah.
be gone. So I think there's more thing that we can benefit as a country if we allow decentralization and devolution to take place, and let them
Absolutely.
just remain at the national level and just give chance to this law to these laws to be implemented.
Absolutely. Okay. All right. So our final topic here is concerning the port. So there was a bill that originated in the Senate. A lot of people say originated by the pro temp Senator Yomli Kanga Lawrence. That was passed by the House and sent to the president's desk. And on July 15th, the president vetoed the bill and returned the bill back to the Senate, where it originated, with some stipulations on what his concerns were and why he was vetoing the bill. So first, I want to hear from you, kind of, on just the bill. This bill to we're talking about decentralization. You could say this is what it's about. Other people could say no, this is different. What is your take on? So the first thing is that what we know is that presently all ports fall under the National Port Authority, okay, including the free port. Um, and that the national the director general, or whatever they call him, whatever his title is appointed by the president, and then he goes ahead and appoints the heads of all the other ports, and they all fall under his direction. Um, and this is what we know so far. And there's this bill that was coming in that will make all ports autonomous. What is your take on making all ports autonomous?
Thank you very much. So this is something I have followed since it started. I'm not surprised that the president has vetoed the two laws to go back to the legislature for them to take a relook. I think there has been a lot of resistance to it in the sense that it did not have any public participation in it. You know, and democracy by itself has principles: accountability, transparency, inclusion, participation. Every time you do something, especially lawmaking, when you are making a law, you need to create a space for people to participate. That participation can be ordinary people, it can be experts, people who know what exactly you are passing the law for so that they can make their input. But
Yeah.
like you said, this thing just originated in the Senate. Nobody happened to have seen the law in the public. No public hearing was held. There is also one thing that is laid down in the government of Liberia. We have a law reform commission. So every time you are suggesting a law or you are submitting a law to be passed in the legislature, you have to pass it through the law reform commission. And one thing the law reform commission will do is to be able to review that law that you are proposing to see if it violates any existing law or if it overlaps with any existing law. All of this did not happen until the law got passed. It was sent to the lower house. The lower house concurred, and even in the lower house, people were saying that they did not get copies of the law when they passed on it. So on the side of public participation, it was zero. The
Okay.
other thing is that it's done under the this push for decentralization in the country. But here is my point. You have the bigger decentralization law that you are undercutting. You say you want to amend it, you want to destroy it. And then you can't on the put side, you say we want decentralize. So to me, as somebody that work on decentralization, I don't understand it. When the bigger decentralization law that you need to move resources and decision making to the subnational level, you're not doing that, but you want to decentralize. They say decentralization and modernization. So one public participation was not there. Then the law got passed based on the reaction that I have read. It overlaps with the mandate of existing institutions like the Liberia Maritime Authority because they have the authority to preside over all seaports across the country, international maritime engagement. They are responsible for it. If you had sent that law to the Law Reform Commission, they would have told you all of these things. But because you wanted to keep it in secret, you did not do it. So, like you said initially, all the posts are under the National Port Authority, which presides over them.
Yes. Are you there? You gonna
In
find it?
terms of actually managing those other posts, their focus is entirely on Monrovia. So for me, I totally do agree that these posts should go autonomous. Let competition be created among them, just as we are asking the counties to be autonomous so that they can compete among themselves. Let these sports compete among themselves. But the governing structures that is set in the law, the governance frameworks that is set in the law, I think has some problem because they still maintain it at the national level, and I think they put a committee of up around 24 or 25 persons to serve as the board over all of these ports that you say are going to be autonomous. So if they are going to be autonomous, create a small board, maybe 4 or 5 of technicians that can preside over them. Not for them to be under a board again at the national level, that is so big enough that they might not even agree among themselves. And then the lawmakers put in a law that they will suggest people to be nominated by the president. So I think overall it wasn't done well. Even the content of it, the language is not corresponding with the heading that was provided by the law. So I think it was a good thing that the president sent it back. We can only advise that they do broad consultation now so that the limitations in the law can be addressed and then eventually they can move ahead with making these posts autonomous. To me, I support them being autonomous, but the structures that they put in these laws, the framework that they put there, I don't agree with it.
Okay. All right. Um. J. Victor Nambe. I'll ask you the same question. What is your take on um the ports becoming autonomous versus what is presently now, where the port manager for the NPA controls all ports?
Yeah, I mean, I think Thomas really pretty much took the meat out of it. The law was rushed. A lot of us commented on this. It was done in secrecy, and there are lawmakers in the House. I think I came on this network and said that we invited Musa Belete on at one point in time. He had not even heard of the law. We were telling him about it on air, and so I think it was put through by the rescue, legislators, and I think for full transparency and also accountability, like Thomas is saying, I think they need to make the participation much broader. Uh,
But let me ask, do you think ports should be autonomous?
no, I think in the whole concept of decentralization we were talking about, I think it invites more efficiency. I think I think they should find a way. But the bill that I saw, the summary that I saw, it did not describe to any, it did not convince me that, for instance, the port of Harper,
Mhm,
right now, by decoupling it from the port of from Monrovia, from the port authority, they provided enough incentive to kind of revitalize it.
mhm,
According to the report, the port of Harper did no business at all last year, nothing, and I didn't see anything in there that will enable them to begin to be more functional. And then there are all the conflicts that Thomas just talked about. The president raised those in his communication that led to him to veto. I think this is probably in recent times first time we've seen the president do that, and I commend the president on this one too. I think the fact that he applied the brakes on this, he's not saying no, abandon the idea entirely, but he said he raised some of the issues, the overlapping functions, usurpation. Some of the functions are being usurped from the Liberian Maritime Authority. He pointed that out. Thomas also just accentuated that. So I think they need to take it back, take their time, forget about all the clicks, and I know the problem probably is because of the chopping that is involved in this thing, and that is always the devil. That be devils,
Oh, Nangwe, Nangwe,
if you
Nangwe,
if you
Nangwe.
people want to build a war chest and they want to put some money into this for new
Ah, you see?
you understand me, Michael? It's
Nangwe,
not-
Nangwe. The
There's
president say, the president say he's only running one term. One term.
right.
President promised one term. Okay?
Yeah,
Liberty Party supported United Party. They're part of the United Party Alliance. But they have to prepare themselves for 2029.
that's
You
right.
not get money like that. They don't get money like that. Musa gone. They need money. They need money. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
and I think the limited.
I mean, my man, before we blink our 2029 will be here.
And
How
I
much
think the
they
Liberal Party is on record, Michael, for declaring themselves an opposition party. I think they already said that, even though they're in the rescue
They're
government.
confused.
So we don't know whether this must have been the motivation why they kept this thing so secret, but they need to open it up and bring in, like Thomas is saying, the law reform sector. There are also in this kind of thing there's provision for public comment. There are people who may not be in government at all
Mhm.
who you could give the opportunity to make contribution, open it up, open it for debate, and they rushing with it. I think they need to take their own. I think the intent is good, but the process they're using right now, I think, is flawed. And so I'm happy that the president is sending it back, and now everything is in the open. Now. We're talking about it now. So
Uh, now,
I
now,
hope I hope nobody does something that they cannot return. You understand what I'm saying?
no, that time for the passing. That time for the passing. Before that law, you think why that law was sound quick like that?
So
Advance was already giving.
yeah, yeah.
People are begging you. I know nothing about advance. I'm begging you. I just joking. Before
Your
you
test
tell us,
Michael,
I
your test
don't
Michael,
know
you
about
know about the
advance.
advance.
I know
Ain't
anything
still
about advance. I know anything about Liberty Party planes. I'm not a member of Liberty Party. You hear rumors out there. You hear a lot of things out there. I'm just throwing things out there. But I want to go, Anthony. I want to come with you with this. Um, Article 35 of the Liberian Constitution states that every bill that is passed by the legislature will be sent to the president for his approval or disapproval. And it says, and I quote, if the president does not return the bill or resolution within 20 days after the scene shall have been laid before him, it shall become law in like manner as if he has signed it, unless the legislature by adjournment prevents its return. So if the legislature is in session, the law is passed, the president has 20 days either to sign it or to return it. On June 20, on June 24th, Variety newspaper publicized that the law had been passed in the legislature. June 24th. The president veto was signed July 15th. That's 21 days in between the two. Do we, it does is it a matter of concern? Is it a matter of discussion, or do you think there's just something that the president said no, we're not counting any day, and the president said no, so we're just going on and we're just going to ignore the law?
Well, let's understand that um, whether or not the 20 days can be any day.
Mm-hmm.
In the business cycle, they say, well, the business people will say, well, 5 business days.
Mm-hmm.
5 business days consider the weekdays and weekends are out, or Saturday and Sunday out. Whether or not this applies in this case, I don't know. But if we should assume that, the Constitution is straightforward, the Constitution did not specify what days are working days, non-working days. But in government too, we know that weekends are non-working days for most governments.
Yeah.
All right. So if in the wisdom of the law, when they say 20 days, they are talking about 20 working days,
Mm-hmm.
Saturday and Sunday excluded, then the president vetoed the bill within the time frame stipulated by the Constitution. Now, if at all that is not the case, then that is an entirely a different thing.
Mm-hmm.
Now, then having addressed that, let me come to the issue of the
Yes.
port.
Yes.
I'm in agreement that the port should be autonomous. And we earlier talked about the decentralization. All right. This is an opportunity for those counties that have ports to generate significant revenue for themselves. Grand Bassa for an county, for an example, my understanding is that I've not gone there. My understanding is that ports, present an enormous capacity in terms of land space, not the infrastructure, by the way, but that capacity, the infrastructure can be built. You understand? But in terms of the land space, the location, and all that, it is an opportunity for significant revenue generation. All right, that will go to the county Grand Bassa. All right, to develop Grand Bassa, and Grand Bassa will not be looking up to central government. Right. Sano is the same thing. I live in Sano for a long time. I'm familiar with the port. I went there. I did everything. I passed by the seaport. It's a little pier. It's a little harbor. It's not a port. All right. But a port. The same thing with Maryland County. I live in Maryland County. I went there. I know how it is. That thing, when you are talking about ports, you will not count Sino. You will not count Maryland or Harper. Those are, but that's why we have. But in the past, operations were going on. All right. I saw a little bit when the port of Sino was operational. I saw ship docked there and logs being loaded and shipped out of the country. I saw similar thing physically, all right, at a little harbor there in Sino County. Those little ports present enormous opportunity for the county leadership to manage those ports and generate significant revenue. Now, if those counties are autonomous and running their own seaports and generating money and using the money for development, investing some in education, in healthcare, even investing some in roads, something that we actually need, right? Now, then Grand Crew can get chatting, but I gotta see here what am I doing with this sea. All right. And another thing is that those counties can in fact go out to source investors who might come and invest in those ports and go into a partnership to operate those ports, and they can do revenue sharing. And Thomas can speak eloquently on this. He's our record, our resident economist, right? That would be
Yeah.
because the efficiencies of the port, the capacity of the ports, you understand, will bring more revenue. If you look at the one we have in Moravia, for example, we can have a much better port than that.
Oh yeah.
I have argued that if we really want to build a port that would be almost like the Singapore of West Africa, let's
Mhm.
use the St. Paul River, all right, entering into the sea, and then let the ship dock in that sea. That how it is in Abidjan. I lived in Abidjan for some time. They
Mhm.
have a canal, they call it Vridi Canal. As the ship coming, the canal enter the sea, they just enter there, and then they can dock along the banks of the canal. So
Mhm.
Africa's in terms of port, they have a huge port, and it's serving a lot of countries that are in the north that don't have
Let me
seaport,
ask you a question.
generating significant revenue.
Let
But
me
again, my brother, it all comes to planning.
let
How
me,
are
let
we
me,
planning national development to
let
able
me let me ask you a question
to
because
increase revenue? Mhm.
some people might argue that the ports are already autonomous. So this is what we don't usually look at, right? So you have the National Port Authority.
Mhm.
Somehow, some way, Freeport got fused with the National Port Authority.
Mhm.
Nobody can differentiate between the two.
Mhm.
So when people talk about National Port Authority, they talk Freeport right away.
Yeah.
And I think that is a breakdown because National Port Authority is the authority for all of the ports, and all of the ports should be advocated for. But it seems like somewhere along the line, National Port Authority got fused with Freeport, and all of the advocacy, all of the attention, all of the renovation, construction, rehabilitation, expansion was just focused on Freeport.
And
When
that
Freeport is not the only port in the country. Why are we importing rice into Freeport and then taking it by road to Zwedru?
and Margaret, if I may, the important point you're raising there, National Port Authority,
Hmm.
the port operation.
Hmm.
The National Port Authority, and somebody can correct me here, should be almost like the entity regulating port operations or the
Hmm.
port operation. It should
Yes.
be two separate. We should have entirely port operation. We should have a port manager, all
Hmm.
right, and so on and so forth, who is entirely for the operation. Then
Hmm.
the authority regulates the operation of these ports. That is how it should be. I don't know. We got confused because they took the National Port Authority and put it within the port. I don't
Yes.
know the reason, but we have a lot of work to do because ports present a significant
Hmm.
opportunity for revenue generation. That is why in Liberia they say the National Port Authority is the gateway to the national economy,
Hmm.
which might be true, but how true that is another debate for economists to have. But
Yeah.
I mean, we have to make sure we operationalize our ports, decentralize them. I agree, make them autonomous, county by county, and make sure that we can generate significant revenue. That's the way to go, I think.
Thomas, I'm a pro. Do we really need a new law, or we just need an effective national port authority that advocates for all ports along the way?
I think that's one way we could go. And this is where people are arguing that this they call it port in inland, inland port regulatory authority that they want to create is essentially replicating what the NPA actually is,
Mhm.
except that they are increasing the board members to no, I think 24 or something.
24.
Right, which is not effective in any way because the larger the bowl size, the more difficult it is for people to agree on anything.
Hmm.
And decentralization is to give decision making to a lower level of government or to give it to a smaller group of people so that it cannot be centralized,
Yeah.
right? That's essentially what decentralization is. But I think the core issue goes back to the point that we're making. The free port of Monrovia just got missing. It is the NPA that is serving as the port manager for
Freeport.
the free port of Monrovia, where the problem is coming from. So essentially, what I would think we need to do is just go back to that de-link the NPA from the port of Monrovia. Say the NPA, your responsibility is to regulate all these four ports that will now be autonomous. You will regulate them from Monrovia. But all of them will have a port manager, and then they will have what? Boards that will manage them. The
Yes.
sign off port, for instance, should have a small bowl, maybe 4 or 5 persons, and
Yeah.
make sure that that bowl is represented by people from the county. Then that brings the decentralization nature to it. The
Yeah.
superintendent of Maryland County should be on that bowl
Yeah.
because the port is located there. And
Yeah.
Anthony made a critical point on development. The reason why the previous Unity Party government started to pave the road from Harper to
Mm-hmm.
Greenville
Mm-hmm.
into Grangide, and not starting from Morovia to go was that port was going to play a role in terms of making sure that these counties can have access to what? To goods.
Because
So instead of bringing commodities to Morovia and the road between Nimba and Grangide is spoiled to River S or to River G, you could get it to the port in Maryland and just use that paved road from Harper to Fishtown and
yes.
get the goods into that place. So that means if we've paved that road and we
Mm-hmm.
don't rehabilitate the port that is in Harper, then we don't get the economic benefit from that road because we're not making for pen to just be riding on it. So that's where once we are building the infrastructure in terms of road, we need to now make these ports autonomous so that they can attract investment, rehabilitate them, then the traffic there can increase. I don't agree with people who say that why should we make them autonomous because there's no traffic. There's no traffic because you've not put money in there. You've not
Yeah.
dredged them.
Yeah.
The one in Maryland, many years ago, there was a ship that sank into that port. Up to
And it's
now,
still
the
there.
debris is still there. They
It's
have
still
not
there.
removed it.
Yes.
So I agree with you. Maybe we don't need a new authority. Let's just go and de-link the NPA from what?
Yes.
From the
Make
free port of
it more
Monrovia.
effective. Yes.
Have a separate bowl for the Freeport of Morovia. Have three separate
Precisely.
bowls: one for
Yeah.
Freeport in Morovia, one for Port in Sano, one for the port in Maryland, and then
Yeah.
the NPA can now regulate all of them. And there
Yes.
is even a plan to build a dry land port in Nimba. So that means when you build that through, it fall under the regulator. If
Yeah.
you in the future, if you build one in Lofa, it falls under the regulator. So I think there's just a bit of confusion here. Let the law go back so we can think better.
Yes. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Okay, people. So we've exhausted our topics. Oh, Nangway, I did get your input, right?
Yeah, you
Yes,
did.
I did.
You
Thank you
did.
so much. Thank you so
Yeah.
much.
Yeah.
And our other panelists had to drop off. He had a personal issue he had to take care of.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, yeah. But we exhausted our topics. Interesting topics, gentlemen. Thank you so much for joining me early this Saturday morning, in a wet Saturday afternoon. To our Facebook audience there, we want to say thank you for joining us. I'm going to give you guys just 2 minutes to close. You can wrap up. You can pick any topic, or you can touch on all of them. We talked about the protests. We talked about the drug epidemic in Liberia, and then we also talked about our port issue, and finally our local government and our local government laws and the struggles we are having. Everything, nothing good, right? It's just rolled out easily. There are struggles, there are birthing pains, but we have to work through them, and we have to educate our people so that we can have a good outcome when it comes to certain things. So I'll give you guys 2 minutes each. Nangwe, you go first. Uh,
Okay. Thank you, Michael, and thank you, Thomas, as well. Anthony, he's having some family issues back there. All the best to you, Anthony. I hope all goes well, brother. But yeah, let me use my 2 minutes to close. Quickly, let me say this. Look, all of us here, we've been in the political space. I have been in the political space over 40 years now, and I have seen a lot. This time around, I have chosen to support the CMC. And let me say this: last election cycle, I supported the CPP because I believed then Alex Cummings presented the best plan to help us out of what we're in, the situation we're in now. Unfortunately, Alex did not. He did not. He did not. He didn't gain traction. He didn't. He wasn't selected. I believe Alex was coming into the scene with the capacity that Musa Ability is already deploying. Musa is doing things in the space that I have never seen before. And the mantra is, I will do for you today now and ask you tomorrow to elect me, which is quite contrary to what most of our politicians have done. They come to you with the promises of heaven, and then when they get in, They do nothing. And this is what has impressed me. And so I have decided I'm going to support Musa. I have heard the comments people make. Is he using his personal money? Why is he not using government money or whatever it is? But through the CMC, we have decided we would tell our people and show to our people what is possible from your government. So if you remember, just last week we had a situation in Bapulu County. You
Yeah.
know, the senator has been in office for over 5 years, Boto Kane. She did not know there was a breach in there that needed attention until we got in there and decided, you know what? You people have been at this bridge for over 50 years. So many of your compatriots have died on this bridge. We're here to help. And all of a sudden, the government realized its fiduciary responsibility to the people of Bakulu, even though money has been in the budget all the time, and they never did that bridge. If this is how we will move this government to do what it is supposed to do for our people, God help us. Musa is in Nimba now, he's in Bonkante, he's in Margivi, he's going to the southeast now.
Wow.
We're going to go throughout the country and show to our people in a very minimal but very impactful way what is possible. And I urge all of us to make demands on our government. We were saying here, using the power that we have, there's a lot of good that the government should be able to do if they deploy our resources judiciously. We're a small country. It doesn't require a lot if we pull our resources and direct them appropriately. Some of the ways we can do that we already discussed on the show here. you
Yeah.
know making sure the social development, whatever funding that's available, actually filters down to the people and let them choose the projects, the things that affect them most, and tackle them. That's how you bring relief to the people. Now you're deciding the people need a hand pump here, and then you put it on and nobody uses the hand pump. So as I'm passing it on, let me just tell those naysayers, with all the fake news that Musa had been banned for whatever he did with FIFA or whatever. Musa is here in the States. I met with him yesterday in Philadelphia.
Oh, so
They,
the one that posted Musa, they deny Musa visa.
Musa couldn't come to the States. He was banned. He couldn't get a visa. The citizens of the United Nimba Citizens Council met with him yesterday in Philadelphia. We had a
Mhm.
beautiful program. He's going to be on the East Coast here for a while. But he's not perfect. No politician is perfect. And I'm not, he has explained his past. We'll do that another time. But right now, I'm focused on what he's doing for the country. You can't deny the fact that he's bringing a lot of relief to a lot of people. I'll leave it there. Thank you for the
Thank
show.
you. Thank you, and for your CMC plug. Go ahead, Thomas.
Oh, Thomas
So,
coming, Mike. Don't forget to plug in the show that's coming in the afternoon. Don't forget that.
Okay.
so, so interesting that the CMC wasn't one of the topics that we discussed, but
I
Mr.
know,
Namwe
right?
close to it.
And,
But I can pick up from where he stopped, right? Because the CMC is kind of creating competition, and that's the same kind of competition that decentralization can create, right? Anthony, I mean, he left, but he made a very good point. Let these counties start to compete, and then they can develop their own development path. One country will say, for me, I want to invest all my resources into human capacity development. That is, I want to make sure I build schools. And this is the reason why you see all the countries around the world, they didn't take the same development path. Some people invested heavily in human capital. Some people say we develop first our physical capital, we build rules and all of that. So I think that point on the CMC in terms of competition, and that's the essence of multi-party democracy, right? So that we can compete on ideas. So I think I can just plug that from where he said. But going back to the protests, like we said from the beginning, that was a fundamental right that was respected by the government of Liberia. The protesters came out, they read their petition. Some of the issues that they highlighted in their petitions are things that are laid out in the arrest agenda for inclusive development, improving healthcare, improving education, making sure people are prosecuted for corruption and all of that. These are all in the plan. But it doesn't hurt for the citizens to come out to say, even though it's documented, we want you to do more. So we are grateful that the government allowed them to come out on the streets, and they did it peacefully, and there was no destruction that came out. There was no fighting that came up. There was some bit of stone throwing. I did read that some stones were thrown at at Capitol building, but I don't think there were too much hurt that came out of it. So that was good thing. We cannot predict where this moves on from here. If the drug thing actually does spring out of the protest and it becomes an issue of a national focus, I think it's a valid focus. because I think the issue of the drugs has been slipping for a while now. It was a major campaign issue. And then when people normally used to say that when you are campaigning, you talk about things, but when you win, then things happen to take your attention. When the government took power, then the auditing of the NSA King, central bank audit, LTA audit, in the end, you just get buried. And some of the things that you said you were going to do, you kind of forget about them. So I think I suppose Senator Connor and Senator Dillon let the committee come and say exactly what they are doing. Because to be very frank with you, I work on public sector reform. Every time you hear interagency collaboration, it's very difficult. To even call a meeting to have representatives from Health Ministry, Education, Youth and Sport, everybody to come, it can be extremely difficult because these agencies fight over their mandates. The only way you get money in the government is for you to have a mandate. Even with the 10,000 young people that the president said he was going to train, it began a fight between LTA and Ministry of Youth and Sport. Ministry of Youth and Sport say when you train young people that are our people, we need to be there. Then LTA say we train the RT and RT that are our era. So who then will preserve? So once you say you put a committee of different agencies, you have to be on their back. If not, they will go to do their normal work and they will forget about their collaboration. On the local government and decentralization issue, we should just let's appeal to our lawmakers. Everything that is happening with decentralization is to get the people that you are representing out of poverty, is to empower them, is to give them voice. So we just appeal to them. Let them do it the same way the lawmakers in Sierra Leone, Ghana, Uganda, Kenya, they have done. Get your hands off these service delivery issues at the local level and turn it over to the local government. Kenya did this. The same thing we're doing. Kenya did it until 2010 when they realized that this thing cannot work. You can't be national, you be sub-national, it can't work. So they just remove national government from all local government things and pull it in the constitution. The Kenya constitution has devolution inside so that no lawmaker can change it because that the thing we're suffering now. Because the local government law will pass by then, anytime they get happy, they say, yeah, let amend it. So hopefully, if there's a constitutional review or constitutional amendment that comes up, we need to put devolution in the constitution. And then on the port issue, it has already gone back. Now it's public. If they do it in secret again, we hope the president can veto it again. But it's an opportunity for us to make these ports autonomous, make sure they compete among themselves, and then it can spur economic growth and development around those harbors. Sino can have its own economic activity. Maryland can have its own. Grand Bassa, let me close, has a lot of potential. SST is active in Grand Bassa. The agreement that was signed by Ivan
HPS.
Ford. Yeah,
Yeah.
HPS is going to make that place a little bit active. And
Yeah.
Grand Bassa also has the special economic zone that Liberia is piloting. You create a zone where companies come, you give them tax relief.
Tax
They
free. Yeah.
come,
For certain
yeah,
time.
you produce and then
Almost a free zone.
right. So
Yeah.
Grand Bassa also has that. I'm
Yeah.
even advocating that Grand Bassa should be the Silicon Valley. Say all the RT, all the people that are doing RT things, send that to Grand Bassa so it can be the hub. Let the university in Grand Bassa be kind of technical related with technology and all of that. So let our national people just give chance to the decentralization. Let's try it. Would they centralize a centralized government for 170? Let decentralize and do it for 50 years, then we can compare. So it was a very good show. Um, for everyone who will be around, tune in at 8 p.m. Liberian time, right?
Yes. Yes. 8 p.m.
For the
Liberia
show
time.
on the marketplace. And I think it will be a discussion on the budget today because the government is going to start with the development of the 2026 budget. So come and listen to the express. They will discuss it. And then next week we'll come back again. But it was a good show. Over. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, gentlemen. Thank you, and Anthony. Even though you had to leave, but thank you so much for your contributions. We appreciate them. And thank you to my audience for sticking with us for a little over 2 hours. Usually we try to cut the show at 2, but we had a lot of information to give. So we thought it was important that we give that information to you. So thank you so much. Join us next Saturday. Hopefully we'll have a better technical um, opportunity, and we'll be able to bring you live on Kear Radio 95.9, which is 2 p.m. Liberian time. So join us then, and make your contributions. We have a lot going on. Our country, The beautiful thing about our country is that we have a lot of growth ahead of us. And if we do the growth the right way, things will be so much better and so much faster for us. There's a lot of countries that have grown exponentially and they've grown wrongly. Now they have to step back, they have to revert. There's so many things they have to redo. For us, we can see our stagnation as a blessing. We can look at those mistakes that they have made, and instead of going ahead and making those mistakes, we can correct those things as we go along, and it just makes things better for us. Okay. All right. Thank you so much, gentlemen. And like we will end with our usual, we are all Liberians. So we disagree at times, people, but we'll always remember that we are all Liberians. Thank you guys. See you next Saturday.
We are Liberians.